Hello, welcome to Astra Prime podcast series. Today, we have an incredible person as a guest who is a financial advisor, a financial expert who has years of experience and been to both sides of the table. Mr. Nam Hariharan. He is here in the Middle East from year 2000, but his journey started as a financial expert from the year 1982. Let's have a conversation with our special person, Mr. Nam Hariharan. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Feroz, for the kind words.
So, from year 2000, or maybe before earlier than that, you have seen a lot of business starting here, growing here, thriving here, facing challenges, falling down, so on and so forth. So, I would like to know from your insight or from your experience, why businesses fail, or what is the secret behind a business's success?
Very difficult question to answer, Mr. Feroz. There are a lot of factors that these cyclical changes affect businesses. There are factors that are external, on which a business owner and stakeholders have no control. And there are factors on which they have full control, but they unfortunately do not seem to control. Interest regime, trade relationship between companies, availability of raw materials, logistics and shipping, all this form part, which you may not have a full control on any of this. But more importantly, I think we should focus on what businesses can do. I think on the regional side, if we explain and look into what's happening on the Middle East, North Africa region especially, I think there has been a lot of business based on hope.
True.
Unfortunately, hope is not a business strategy. People have a business plan, but they do not cross-check. They do not challenge that business plan. Now, when we talk about business plan, people think that this is applicable to a startup, a new business that's coming up. But unfortunately, no. As much as people, as much as your personal finance have a short-term and a long-term plan, businesses must have a short-term and a long-term plan, which we call a business plan. And this need to be revalidated. This need to be scrutinized. And you need to be your own devil's own advocate to check whether these numbers are true. Because the problem is, many of people use Excel. And I think I should say, more businesses have been killed by Excel than anything else.
Why do you say that?
Because they just generate numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And that numbers gives you a false hope. Oh, on year so-and-so, this much would be my top line. And therefore, this is going to be my bottom line.
Having said that, having a business plan, as you rightly said, it is very important and vital to progress a business. But do you think that's the only reason, other not othering or not checking the plan time to time or updating the plan time to time will favor or maybe will invite troubles to the business?
See, the word business plan is quite a humongous, very large canvas word. Let us try to see a bit selective, focused area into the business plan. Naturally, any business plan must have a financial planning.
True.
Now, let us look at the basics. So, I have equity, I have debt, and I need to have, therefore, cash flow to run the business. Assume my cost of funds today is going to be 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm not going to generate 10% net profit, how do I survive?
But most of the cases these days, or we have seen ups and downs in the market, but many cases, there are many businesses just progress or run with this 10% or maybe 8% net profit because they say these are the toughest times and we have to survive somehow. And again, the word I'm taking, which you have mentioned, hope. Next year, I will survive with 5% or 8% or 10% of net profit. And maybe in the coming years, I can progress my business or maybe I can take my business to another level. And I understand there are many financial institutions here which helps the business to take it to the next level, or maybe to help on injecting the working capitals. But again, I'm sure they will look upon the net profit and they will look upon the performances. But again, I'm sure these banks or these institutions are trying to help the businesses as well, isn't it? When you focus on the 10% net profit, uh, in your experience or in your insight, how do you comment on that?
See, I think we need to look at it broadly from two angles. Though we were focusing on a financial plan part of the business plan, and we were talking some numbers, irrespective of whether they are correct or no, take it as examples. Now, the hope part comes into play, a very difficult part. You hope you would sell more.
True.
You hope you would reduce your costs. You hope, therefore, you'll make your bottom line better. But what you don't seem to understand, what you don't seem to hope, is that there are more new players coming into the market. And especially in this market, there is going to be a lot of undercutting on prices and services. And therefore, we do not know what's going to go next. Now, let us take the example of FMCG, grocery business.
True.
10 years ago, the model was totally different. There were small bakalas, stores. There were larger self-service stores. There were supermarkets. There were hypermarkets. Maybe there are a few wholesalers market.
True.
Nobody expected the online is going to play and throw a very dirty hot spanner into the soup. So the model has changed and your hope has gone out of business. Now, hope is good to have a plan, but unfortunately, if you don't count your money and compare it with what you make and what you pay, is a difficult question. Now, the cost of looking at a business, the cost of funding, people always forget the equity cost. Having put a certain number of millions, having put a certain number of money as equity capital, now what's that cost? People always look at the banking cost and your cost of sales.
True.
And the profit margin. This is a wrong way to approach it because your capital is a cost. It has alternate uses. So there is always an opportunity cost.
Okay.
At least take it as you expect to get 15% on your capital. And your banking cost is whatever, 10%. Now the blended cost, what we call the weighted average cost of capital, is always forgotten by SMEs.
Hey.
This is always forgotten by the middle market. So they look at this number. Now people say, I'm only making 8% net profit, so how do I pay 10%? But they forget, they write down 25% as an example on depreciation. So if they make only 8% and if they write off 25%, does it make sense arithmetically? No, my gross margin, I'm only charging 2 per ton. I'm only charging 2% as my margin. So all these numbers are really confusing. True. So what I'm trying to tell you is that, or what I'm trying to express is that the financial numbers need to be understood. You need a financial expert to help you with that. These numbers don't make sense as numbers. Depreciation 25%, gross margin 10%, cost of funds 10%. So how do I survive doesn't make sense. So you need to understand it better. So numbers, finance, banking, all these are expertise a stakeholder, a shareholder must know. But unfortunately, one cannot know everything. So that's where specified, specialized financial help comes in.
True. Having said that, I remember in 2023, a very large percentage of requirements to the banks which SMEs put forward, especially the SMEs put forward, was rejected by the banks because they want their finances, they want to inject to their working capital, they want to have more facilities from the banks or any financial institutions as such. Why the banks or such financial institutions are rejecting, and how can a business can be more secure, or maybe how they can give a proposal so that they will get a favorable response from the institutions? What are the key points to be looked upon in that reports?
See, as much as bankers must understand and help businesses, businesses must understand and banks and help them. Now you understand and you say and you expect that we all have business plans.
True.
Now, why don't we accept that bankers have a business plan too? Banking is a business.
It is indeed.
If we look at it, bankers are somebody with large kitties doling out money. No, that's a business. So, for example, you are in textile business, he's in the money business.
True.
So, bankers have certain lookout, and irrespective of the changes, IT, online, structures, the basic banking tenets remain the same. What's that? He needs to have money, deposits, and he needs to lend it out. And the cost of deposits and the cost of lending must be different in favor of lending.
Sure.
And most importantly, he must collect his money back. Now, if that is a big banking basic business, as a business owner, do I qualify? Do I make sense when I go to the banker? These three, his requirements shall be met. It is as much as you selling a product. What is your unique selling proposition? Why should people buy from you? Why should they buy in this quantity and at this price? When you look at the bankers, put the same questions in reverse. Why should bank lend you?
I understand, but maybe it's a stupid question, but I'm going to the bank. If I have everything right with me, if I have the strength, and if I have the right finances or right everything, why do I approach the bank?
Perfect. I'm not talking about that everything is right. You don't have to go to the banker story.
Yeah.
I'm talking about when you go to the bank, what you provide to him and what you ask from him, is it right?
Okay.
Now, you are a startup. Examples, don't get misled by it, don't get worried about it. Let's say somebody has put $1 million dirhams, he is starting a company, he's going to do trading, and $1 million dirhams these days on trading doesn't make sense. So therefore, he goes to the bankers on the 6th month and he says he needs
More
10
money,
million
yes.
more of trade loans, whether it is working capital,
Yes.
import loan, facilities, whatever. He wants 10 million from the bankers. Now, prima facie, this is not going to be accepted.
They wouldn't, yes.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense that you started your company 6 months ago and your turnover or your capital or the money in the business that you have put is 1 million and you are expecting your bankers to leverage it 10 times. It's not going to happen. So I'm not saying all applications that were rejected were on this mode, but what we are trying to come to a consensus is that the application for a banking facility, a banking requirement must make sense.
True.
Right from the way that you open an account, to getting a checkbook, to getting required types of accounts and facilities, everything needs to make sense with the business vis-a-vis to the banker. So I can't be walking into a multinational bank tomorrow, let it be any multinational bank in anywhere in the world, and say, I need a current account where I will maintain a deposit of 10,000 dirhams or $10,000.
It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. As much as businesses don't work that way, because people sell, I don't know, something valued at 100,000 a piece, you don't expect him to sell another thing at 10,000 a piece. His model, his style is at that level. So as much as bankers are different animals, bankers have different categories. So businesses need to understand, number one, which bank to approach, what is to be there that needs to be asked, and then also understand what would that banker ask you in return.
True.
It's a give and take.
But here I have seen many institutions which provide non-collateral, collateral-free facilities or collateral-free mortgages or not mortgages. Mortgages always with collaterals, but some facilities or maybe some support from the bank or some institutions. How does that work with the non-collateral security?
We again need to understand a bit of a banking business, right? So what you are saying is touching upon the banker's most important need of getting his money back. So I can trust you. In Victorian times, that was exactly was it. I promise to pay you. That was enough. The word was enough.
Yeah.
And that's how even the word or the usage of promissory note came into being.
True.
From that day to day, we have KYC, due diligence, enhanced due diligence, and so on, before a banker would see you. I'm being serious.
Okay.
He wouldn't see you before he understands who are you, where are you from, what's your business, what are your connections.
One simple AECB report will give most of the track records. Yeah.
Exactly. So then he comes to understand, okay, this guy is okay to meet. Then the next question is that if I lend him out something, if I give him money, what are the resources? What are the securities? What do I have in my report, which I need to give to my credit committee, my management, that would satisfy that the money would come back.
So again, the proper business plan with the proper numbers, or it comes into play.
Exactly, because you have to show yourself.
Yes.
Because there is a joke or there is a funny saying that you can't hide anything from your wife, banker, insurer, and more importantly, your girlfriend. Because you will be caught red-handed today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
So let's take the bankers now. We are not worried about
Other
the
things
rest
we can.
of the story. So
we
the
can park it.
bankers need to know that what you are saying is clear, is concise, that relates to what is the reality on the ground, not only
And it should match with the reports. Which
exactly, not
in
only
the past
your
years.
business,
Yes.
that should mark the industry and the market.
Correct.
And you cannot be going to the bank with a statement saying I'm going to make 10% growth in every quarter when the economy is suffering at 2%. So all this has to be input into what you are saying. Now, to get to that stage, again, what is more important is that there is a language for bankers. There is a language for business.
Okay.
There is a language for the family. Now, we are not masters of all languages.
True.
If you talk to an engineer, he would say so many words and ideas and structures and things which you don't understand, because that's how they communicate. You business guys are also saying, when you people, business people talk to business people, you don't talk about risk, you don't talk about KYC, you talk about volumes, margins, and availability.
True.
So bankers have their own language, they have their own jargon. So we need to adapt to that. They need to understand what you are saying in their own language.
True.
Many times the problem is the business guys don't understand what the bankers are saying. They say, would you please speak in English? The bankers say the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't understand what you have put up here.
So I think the banks or any institutions for that matter sees different cases as different standards. So, so each, for example, FMCG business or the industries or maybe the tech business, they don't look upon as one. It's all different, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think to get it aligned, that's where a proper financial consultant comes into place to advise
I
you.
think the word financial consultant is the most unliked, hated word in the market. So
why would you say that? Why would you say that?
Because they think they are out there to get your money for nothing.
Okay.
Now, we have the same feeling with doctors. We have the same feeling with engineers. We have the same feeling with evaluators, insurers, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Now, the reality is that this is part of the business worldwide. You can't go to, I don't know, Dubai municipality and say, I want to construct this and draw something on a white paper with pencil, not to scale, give it to him and say, would you give me approval? He will say, no. I have a format here.
Yeah.
I have a system here.
Right.
Follow that system. And you can't be doing it. I want a qualified guy certifying it. He would do it this manner. And he would make sure it will be done in that manner. And when we come there to inspect, it will be in that manner. Now you're ready to accept that.
True.
Same with plumbing. Same with electricity. You won't be doing your electrification in your house your own, because we know just connect a couple of wires and
without a proper electrical drawing or a certified approved drawing, you didn't do that.
So the reality of the world today is that everywhere there are regulations. Regulations require qualified and certified people, and it requires a certain method, a certain language, a certain format to be used. Now, the moment it comes to banking, we say, no. It cannot be. Why doesn't he look at my balance sheet and take it for granted?
Yeah.
Now, this is the problem, right? Because we need to have a communication channel, and the communication channel with bankers has to be done in a manner that they understand, with the same jargon, the same nomenclature, same methods, same ratios, and so on. So that is where a financial expert helps. He is as much as like a financial employee of your company.
Correct. So when we talk about financial experts, what do you think? How can they help a business to turn around their business, or maybe um, to help them attain or to help them get some, whatever the working finances or the trade finances or working capital from the bank, will they really help you? What do they do as a financial consultant when they come
In
into the
theory,
picture?
yes, absolutely.
Theory.
In practice, world over, and no region is an exception to that average, there is always two sides to a coin, right? There are people who take it as a vocation employment, just to bill. There are people who want to deliver, hold high value systems, and they always try to charge, try to bill in comparison to what has been delivered. So it depends on your choice of the experts. Now, doesn't it appear same with your chartered accountants?
So,
You can have a chartered accountant who would charge you, I don't know, $5,000 a year, with somebody who would charge you $5,000 an hour. So it's a need to understand what type, where you need to put yourself before you jump into this. Now, definitely a third party's view, a third party's oversight into your business is always helpful.
that's true, but unfortunately what happens is most of the cases, many businesses, what they do is they go to the institutions or the banks and they get their files rejected, and it goes as a bad mark to them or a black mark. Obviously, if a bank loan is or any application is rejected, it's recordical. Then they come to the financial advisor or financial consultant, or they look for a third party on how next, what can I do. But damage has already been done. So
True.
I think we need to educate the businesses the importance of having a consultant, a third party, or maybe an internal auditor or an internal finance consultant. Because many businesses I have seen, they don't really understand the difference between the account department and the finance department.
Correct.
Can you give some examples or live examples, or maybe differences, what the real differences between what an account department should looking upon, and what a finance department should be looking upon?
If I speak the truth, I would be lynched and killed. Because let's look at what you are trying to say from a personal, usual things that happen. When you go and apply for a visa into a new country, there are set guidelines, there are set requirements, there are set documentation. It's so simple. But do you have any idea, or do we know what's the percentage of visa rejection at the first presentation? It's closer to 60%. Average.
In any country?
In this region.
In this region, 60%?
Yes.
Oh, that's...
Because they take it for granted. You need a letter from your sponsor having no objection. They say it's okay. I need 6 months bank statement. They provide 3 months.
Okay.
Now, it's not that it's not clear, but it's a question of not complying with what is required. Now, this is the same with what we must do. Now, if I do something, it's only fair that I look at somebody to have a second pair of eyes looking at it. Now, that is exactly why the regulation has been changing and has been requiring more and more, specifically suited to this business requirements. Now, let us look at what has happened in this region for the last 5 years. VAT has become a reality.
True.
So what does it mean? It means, therefore, you need to have full record, historical record, details of purchase invoices and sales invoices.
True.
Do we disagree?
No.
No.
I'm with you.
Now, if that is there, 20% of your balance sheet data is there.
Sorry.
Then comes more or less, either in direct or indirect form, a corporate tax regime. Now, how can a corporate tax regime survive if we don't have a balance sheet regime? So 2-3 documents are now become mandatory, whether you like it or not. You need a full history record of sales. You need full history record of purchases. And then you need to have a full history record of your balance sheet requirement, so that somebody, a governmental authority, a regulated authority, comes and tells you, show me.
Yeah.
Now, it is not required for this year, right? It is required in historical terms. So, historically, if you look at these requirements are there, If these kind of changes over a period of years have come, where do we go next? You think nothing more is going to happen? So the business requirement study and what we are talking today about the financial requirement study is going to again undergo many changes. You can't be, as a business owner, spending your time on tallying your accounts or looking at your bank statements and so on. That's why you have financial guys, accounting guys doing it. Now, you ask me, how do we look at accounting and finance? The easiest way, globally, it has been, people say, accounting is always history.
Oh, okay.
Oh, last month, what's the salary? My last month's salary was X million. You can't do anything about it.
It's happened.
It happened, finished. Now, finance is something, say, what's going to happen in the next period.
That's
And
the
if you don't
simplest,
have this, if you don't have this differentiation, and if our accounting and finance personnel doesn't understand this basic concept, it's all rolled into one. And many times we see that too. We have finance and accounts professional together, finance and accounts and administration professionals, discipline department working together. We have seen CFO sitting and approving petty cash, because the problem is this differentiation is not understood. Now, this is exactly where the next problem comes. I think I should touch upon it. Are your employees professionals or are you trusted ones?
Both, we can say.
Yeah. The problem is, many times we see, especially in small businesses, medium-type businesses,
Most of them are
they put
trusted.
people, either they are from part of the family, friendship circle, they are trusted. I put somebody in finance, and my only hope that he wouldn't cheat me. He wouldn't take
True.
$10 from my office every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is that he will let you lose $100 every day because he doesn't know business. He doesn't know what he's supposed to do.
It's a very valid point.
And secondly, people will say, I don't have money for all of this. Yeah, you don't have to have money for this. There is why third-party service providers come in. You can hire a CFO today. Probably, I think maybe you will be able to hire a CEO soon. So why don't you use them? And there are enough of online tools if you do online cloud of all your documentation expenses, history, accounting, etc. They provide you with insight into your data.
True.
So, answer the question. Finance and accounts are two important things. Accounts can easily be outsourced. Finance can be, but finance is more internal and futuristic. And we do need to have expert help in all of this.
It's a very valid point, because many companies, including me, we have understood this truth in a harder way. The difference between the accounts and finance, or having a person handling both accounts and finance person. So we understood it, and later we changed it, and
I'm glad that you understood it. But the problem with the businesses today is that many don't even accept there is a problem there.
Yes.
And this needs, as you said, education. Because large corporates is not our concern. They don't need a usual type of financial
They don't do that,
advisors, counseling, etc., because they can afford to, and they have their own separate departments, much with talented people to take care of it. We're talking about small scale.
Yeah.
This is where this problem lasts. And that's why more businesses don't last. If you look at statistics, the average span of businesses that has been in business from day one would be less than 50-60%. For various reasons, they fizzle out. They can't run anymore. As much as you see so many licenses have been issued during this period, nobody talks to you about that many licenses have been closed or is not in activity, because that's not worth talking about.
True.
Financial activity is done by new people coming into business. But are there standard pitfalls a businesses must avoid? And is financial understanding financial regulation, understanding banking requirements, having appropriate financial expertise and support, one part of it at least? I would definitely say yes. You can't ignore this area. The moment you ignore it, you are ignoring yourself. And that would be at the cost of spoiling the business.
True. Very valid point there. And before we were discussing about the VAT, and now corporate tax is also coming into place, already there. So we are all filing VATs, So many big companies, they are filing a big amount because of the percentage what they're doing. So an institution or a business, how can they efficiently manage VAT returns?
I'm not a guy to advise it, or not I'm qualified or authorized to do it. But we can always look at it from a first line principle story, like what bankers do. What does bankers want? What are their lookouts? The same thing applies to tax authorities. What are they looking at? What are the requirements? Now, maybe exceptional cases where everyone is correct, you have filed your returns correctly, they have not received their refund, would be a very, very, very low percentage.
True.
The problem is that your records are incomplete. Your data keeping, bookkeeping is incomplete. You always have backlogs. Now, let me ask you this manner. There are VAT issues problem, there are corporate tax issues problem, but let businesses ask themselves, how many of them has up-to-date accounting and bookkeeping done? Up to date.
Up to date.
Everyone is delayed by a week, a month, or 3, and they think it's normal. Well, how can that be normal? Everyday transactions need to be recorded. Otherwise, the dashboard, the information system, the MIS, the stakeholders and the decision makers don't get the right data. Yesterday, 3 trucks have, run additional 100 kilometers. That has not been posted into the system. And today, we are having a transporter meeting in the company. And how do I think that I'm talking the reality when a very large variance was not reported?
Yeah.
And what is being reported? Number of stoppages, number of accidents, number of tire changes. Well, it's all business requirements that need to decide. Now, my point connected to the VAT and corporate taxes. Well, if you guys are not up to date and you have a complete system tracking each other, the problem with VAT and corporate tax and balance sheet is that they are all interdependent. They are all connected. It is easy to find out anomalies. And authorities need to make sure there are no anomalies before they end up paying refund. Now, theoretically, it's very simple. I paid 10 VAT. I received 15 VAT. So I need to pay back.
True.
But this need to be done in a format, in a language, in a method, like we talked about bankers, tax authorities understand.
True. So when we coming back to the banking needs or the SMEs, growing SMEs, how can a SME, we will focus on more on SMEs now, or a small business, how can they identify the right financial institution for them for a support, for maybe any support for they want for working capital or mortgages or loans, business loans or other facilities? How can they identify a right financial institution?
I think the clarity that a right financial institution needs to be identified is the beginning.
Okay.
It's very important. Because we mentioned somewhere that you cannot walk into an MNC bank and say, I need to do this.
I need to do this, yeah.
No, it doesn't happen that way. Now, there is a lot of things in the world that has changed today which looks at businesses from a different angle. Now imagine I'm an SME trying to export a particular country's patented, trademarked, nationalistic kind of products. No, you are not a regular business then. You are part of that nation's growing identity and symbol and so on. So therefore, national institutions would be the best one to approach. There is no point in going to a banker to understand this because banker doesn't understand what you are doing.
Okay.
Now, you are trying to be on the organic products. Now, you need to look at an institution that is more interested in ESG, that is more interested in these kind of stuff rather than business alone.
Oh, no. Okay.
Now, another way to look at it is that if I am exporting, are there export-oriented national authorities, regulators, arrangers who would look at me.
Mm.
So also, if I'm importing from Italy. So rather than going and talking to a local banker, maybe it is also worthwhile to talk to export promotion companies in Italy, because their purpose is to export and you are importing from them.
Correct.
So there has to be a connect. How would that connect come? We do not know. But the point I'm trying to say is that your product, your need, your willingness to pay the price,
Right.
your timelines, how quick you want it, when do you want it, etc., etc. All this determines who to talk to.
But how do I know these many institutions exist? So maybe because a normal business person in UAE,
Yes.
they just go to a bank. For example, a national bank, any local banks here, they will just go to a bank here and they present their case. See, for instance, if my business, I have a track record of 22 million, 24 million, 26 million for the last 3 years as my turnover, and my net profit is, again, we'll come to talk about 10% or 8%. So this is my situation. And other data are, comparatively okay. And I want to progress, or maybe I want to add something more to my business, and I want more working capital. So usually I will go to any national bank here, any nationalized bank, or any,
I understand what you're trying
yeah,
to
yeah.
ask.
So
But my answer is not going to be something clear. But I think I should say this. If you want to buy a real estate property in UAE, well, you can look down, shortlist all the developers in UAE, from very large one to very small ones. But you never go directly to them to buy.
no,
To my knowledge, there are no developer who sells their units directly. To my knowledge. I may be wrong. I'm not a great guy in that. But you think on banker side it's so. So don't allege I'm comparing bankers with real estate developers. No. Because my point is that, personal, is that it's not your job to do this. It's not your job to do the balance sheet. It's not your job to clean your office and the pantry.
true.
Your job is to run the business. Your job is being worried about the top line and the bottom line. These are business requirements. These can be bought. This can be made available at a price. So instead of you spending, 3 months, average of 500 hours, would I be happy to pay this price for somebody to run with it? So it depends on how you value your time.
True.
If you think you are happy to go to drive, park, go to this bank, the other bank, talk to them, fix the meeting, change it, reconvene it, and be bothered with it, or do I call my finance guy, finance manager, whatever,
any
a consultant to tell him, listen, these are my needs, this is the truth. When do I get it? What's my price? How much do I pay you? When do I pay you? Do I pay you upfront? Do I pay you on success?
True.
Are there any
And
hidden
what
charges?
and what documents should I proceed?
Exactly. And before you proceed with it, come here and take a look at my numbers.
True.
And if you think we won't be favored by a bank, don't let's start it.
Correct.
So this approach,
Or maybe what can be done? What can be done so
To
that
better
the
it.
institutions
Exactly.
can accept
yeah.
the
Now
applications?
we are at saying, how do we select banker, which financial institution, where do we go, how do we go?
Yeah.
So the solution is you don't do it.
True.
There are people supposed to do it, like very much other business functions that's being done today in your business, not by you. And you're happy to pay for them, but you won't pay for this. Now, there is nothing wrong in approaching a consultant. There is nothing wrong in approaching a third party, because your business is today's time. Everything is involving third parties, because that's how the world is. It's not whether I like it or no. Now, you can't go to an insurance company and ask for a quote, right? No, there is a broker. And you have to give him a mandate that you appoint him as a broker.
Yeah.
And then he goes and talks to various insurance providers on your behalf. Now, why is it that? Because he understands their language. Yeah. He understands your language. So
He's specialized in that, not you.
Exactly. And the moment it comes to financial requirement, you said, no, that's not okay. So this is the problem. The problem is with the business owners. They need to understand Such services are required, such services are legal, and such services can be effectively used.
So when we negotiate with the banks or with certain institutions or certain consultants, as a business owner, how do I interact with them? For example, I want a certain working capital or a certain percentage, certain money as for my business development. How do I negotiate with a banking consultant or a banking institution? How can I negotiate?
I think we need to look at it from two sets of different perspectives. The first and foremost point to be with an SME or SME or MMSE, whatever you call it, you don't negotiate with your bankers. You don't have the ability.
Okay.
You don't have the muscles to negotiate with the banker. Because you are talking about small guys, medium guys.
Yeah.
And secondly, negotiation comes in when you have asked for X and what has been offered is less than X.
True.
Now, the first point I think we should all understand is that make sure what you ask for is reasonable. Understand bankers have their own way of evaluating your requirements. The moment what you ask for and the banker's evaluation is same, I think that's the most ideal good status. It may not happen always, but at least there can be a closer.
Correct.
It's very much like your sales budget. Okay, I agree, 10% plus minus is okay. Yeah, but 50% plus minus cannot be okay right then.
True.
So much as you ask the bankers X and the bank is talking about 10% of X, I think your projections were totally lost and he loses faith in you. Now, the smaller negotiation, that is, you ask for X, banker is happy to give you 10% less. Okay, you call it negotiation, but understand you don't have power to negotiate. You are subject to his banker because you are small, you are medium scale. The best way is to agree. Why so? You need to build confidence in the banker. So as much as you said in businesses, over a period of years, I will increase my sales, increase my margin, etc. Why don't you look at your banker as a long-term partner? Why don't you imbibe pride? Why don't you imbibe faith? Why don't you imbibe honesty in the bankers that he starts to look at you as his business for the next 5 years? And he understands that you will look upon him as his favorite bankers for the next 5 years. So it's a question of building faith, building trust, and always working for the long term.
Thank you. That's a very, very, very valid point. When we come to the business, when we talk about a running business, especially we have seen many cases which unpaid invoices, or maybe here there is a practice in this region to give credit, open credit, or maybe a long-term credit, 150 days, 180 days, or beyond that. And there will be businesses stuck with such working capitals. How can they progress? What can they do with
Then
this unpaid invoices?
we again forget the business fundamentals, right?
Yeah, but that's how it is working.
What would a
here.
grandmother say in it? A grandmother would say, top line is vanity.
Okay.
Bottom line, good, nice to have. Cash in the bank is a reality.
True.
Now, I can have a sales of, so many millions, and 80% is overdue more than, again, say 90 days. Well, that's a business you must not continue. That's a business ready to close. You will today or tomorrow. Because cash flow is the oxygen, is the important thing for any businesses. More important than your growth, your volume, top line and bottom line. You don't have cash, you don't survive.
True.
Because end of the day, there are bills you can't postpone.
Gone.
Whether it is electricity charges, telephone charges, connectivity charges, fuel charges.
Suppliers for that matter.
Yeah, even for suppliers to a certain extent for that matter. So the first point is that, are we clear? Are we having a plan? Are we within our structure? These number of days, these invoices are being provided, as you call it, free credit. Is the reality workable? Now you give somebody 90 days, but you know he's going to give in 150 days. And then you think it might extend to 180 days. Now all this is fine. But is that your cash flow supports this?
If it supports, it's okay. Otherwise, it's a question.
And at the end of the day, money is money, right? Money in the bank is money. Yeah. Money in the pocket is money. Everything else is numbers. Everything else is accounting.
Accounting. Accounting,
Yeah.
past.
Now, that is number one. And number two, there are hundreds of ways. There are hundreds of things that has been happening in the market in respect of getting the invoices paid today. There are fintech companies, there are specialized companies, there are things, etc. We need to see, businesses need to see, do we appeal to those guys? Not that everyone would appeal to their requirements, but there are such methods here. Now imagine getting an invoice paid, given credit terms 90 days. Usually you get it on 120 to 150 days, but nowadays you get it only for 180 to 240 days. Imagine, are you good to wait? Are you nice to wait for those many days? Or are you willing to go, I don't know, take a number, 10%, and you get your money today?
True.
Do you have a need for that money? Okay, I can get that money at 10%, but pay off my existing some loan at 12%. So all these are financial decisions. These are not accounting decisions. Because unfortunately, accountant only records.
True.
He provides you aging, but he wouldn't tell you what to do with it.
Yeah.
Accountant would tell you how much money I've lost in the last 6 months. A finance guy needs to tell you how much you will make in the next 6 months.
That's a huge difference.
That's a huge difference. Now, from an invoicing perspective, let's call it payable, receivable, whatever, on whichever side of the businesses you are, well, there has to be a plan for that too. Now, the market requires minimum 60 days, otherwise nobody will accept you. So that's 60 days. You can't do anything about it. It's out of your control. Now,
60 to 90 maybe.
yeah, whatever,
To an
example.
extent, yes.
Now, you give them somebody and he usually takes another 10, 15 days. People play with it. We have to acknowledge it. Cash flow, even at their end, is a problem. So the question is, how do I make them pay? Maybe I tell them, listen, if you pay within 90 to 120 days, you get a 2% discount. So you need to understand that's your cost. Does your business support it? And do you need that cash or you don't? By giving him 2%, can you make more money or lose more money? Or can I tell him, I will give you an additional business, and that I will give you a 10% discount if you do this.
Pay on time.
So not only you increased your sales, all these have cost. Let's not forget it. All this have its own financial implications. But it's a question to understand, how do I get my money back? Would a banker like if you have very huge, large number and value of unpaid invoices?
No.
Imagine. Now, you have unpaid invoices, but on the strength of the invoices, you already have a profit and you have to pay corporate tax on it. Can you go to the corporate tax authority and say, hey, hold on, 50% of my invoices have not been collected. So I'm not going to pay full corporate tax. I'm only pay 5%. Can you say that? No.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, no. Okay, provisions, later, recognition, those are difficult terms. Let's forget it. Now, can you go to the VAT authorities and say, hey, listen, I've charged those guys 5% VAT, but 50% I have not received money. Therefore, this quarter, I'm not paying you, sir. So the impact of this receivable is not just that money. It has multiple
implications
on
business.
different
And
fronts.
cash flow is going to affect you.
Now, this is what we call a 360-degree view of financing. How it affects you, what will happen, where will it go. Now, if this view you don't have, I mean you not in person,
Understand,
as a business,
yes, a business.
Businesses must have this view. This is exactly where I say an year-end audit of balance sheet and profit and loss statement preparation is not enough. That is historic. Businesses must be ready to accept that there has to be a pair of eyes looking at it from different angles. What will happen? What will happen? What if? Can I do this? Can I not do this? If I do this, it's going to be helpful, or in the long term, not beneficial. Can I do a short term? So this financial 360-degree view is essential, and that includes how do I manage my invoice receivable.
Again, I'm coming back to the unpaid invoices. Is there a way to secure it? Because I've heard many financial institutions or maybe many products which will secure your unpaid invoices. Maybe, I don't know.
Securing is one. Getting your money in time is another. Okay. Now, imagine I have a AAA rated client. but he regularly pays me, I don't know, 200 days.
Uh,
Yeah, my money is secure. It's not going to go away. Let's imagine I supply uniforms and I supply uniforms to one large multinational banker in the region. And I don't know, I have a 200,000 billing every month, but he pays me regularly on 180 to 200 days. Now that money is secure. That banker is not going to run away by not paying your small money. But you don't have money now. So cash flow is affected. Now, we need to look at options where not that money will be secured, which is good, but who will also give me cash today. But if somebody secures it, it's easy to sell it down in the market. Because somebody says, this receivable, I secure it. If he doesn't pay on such and such day, I pay you, which is a kind of a credit guarantee. Well, somebody will come and say, okay, give me that. I will fund you now. I will charge you this much. So it's a linked issue. Now, there are two types of players. There are credit agencies who do that, especially if your customers are very large customers, not for small customers.
You know,
if you are
again, they have to be approved.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're an SME and you are supplying to SME, if you are trying to cover that thing, I do not think it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
So if your customers are large corporates, I think there is a huge room. Now, secondly, irrespective of SME, MME, whatever, there are specialized institutions, private, who tries to what they call discount your invoice and give you money. That can come in various format, with recourse to you, without recourse to you, at upfront, you pay as much as the delay, you take a share, blah, 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 blah. But let's not worry about the details. But there are specialized companies, fintech companies, startups who look at your invoices too, because that's their business. Their business is to pay you and collect money later from the other party and make a money, what margin in this business. So we are not worried about what they do. We are worried about, do I get my money? Okay. And he says, okay, here is your money. But on the 90th day, if he doesn't pay you, you must pay me. I think even then it's something worth considering, looking at what you need, because you have your money. Yeah. Otherwise, you wait for 90 days and you don't know whether you get your money or back. No, this guy is going to charge me X%. Yeah, that X% doesn't have a meaning by itself. Nothing stands by itself in vacuum. Well, that X% depends on your cost of funding.
That's right.
That X% depends on your need for cash. That X% depends on what you will do with this cash. So with this cash, if you make X plus, well, it is good to pay X and do it.
True.
So answer your question. For a middle, small corporate in this part of the world, it's not easy to manage invoice receivable. Secure and
manage.
Get the money.
Yeah.
Because you have to fund it, right? Securing is one part, getting the money is another part. So, but luckily, thankfully, there are specialized institutions and things coming online, fintech, others who are seriously looking at this. I think seriously the governments acknowledge that this needs to be done and something needs to be in this area. They are pushing bankers to look at special programs with it, etc., etc. But as we speak, that's an important area businesses need to concentrate.
I think this is one of the main reasons why many SMEs fail here, because we were discussing about the number of businesses getting closed also.
I would blame it the other way around. Your business plan did not provide for this delay. As much as you should have an emergency fund on personal basis, I don't know, people say you must have 6 months expenses as cash. Some people say you should have 12 months of money as in cash. Everything else can be anything else. Yeah, do businesses have this emergency funds with them or no? Or is there a need for emergency fund for businesses or no?
Forget about emergency fund. So, they don't have the exactly. Most of them don't have the fund to pay the next.
Unfortunately, I as a business owner on a wrong plan. I assumed my cash flows wrong. I assumed my receipts wrong. I assumed my payments wrong. And then I can't be blaming the system for it. Now, all this were there when you started it, right? It did not happen the moment after you started your business. All this came to be. Oh, until yesterday, everybody paid invoice on time. No. Historically, right from day one, the world started trading.
We allowed them.
People have done this.
We invited
and that's a big business, right? Because buying at cash terms and selling at credit terms is business. That's trading. So that opportunity, the ways to manage it will always be there. Any businesses must take care of it.
Yeah.
We can blame that there was no requirement, there was no way to finance this, there was no need to secure it, nobody pay. Yeah, blame. But
End of the day, who is going to
blame doesn't pay bills.
Yeah.
You can't take a bunch of blames to Diva Electricity and say that, oh, I'm sorry, I
He
don't
didn't
have cash,
pay
I
it,
can't.
so I can't. No. It doesn't
So
work.
this is the problem. So blame game is one thing, making yourself be realistic.
But
to the
again,
plan
so
is very important.
having a solid business plan and reviewing it and updating it time to time, and having a specialized, we call it business consultant, or hiring one, a qualified person for that is very vital.
Absolutely.
As important
what
as you
we
look
say
upon a
24/7.
salesperson or something like that.
24/7, 360 view of finances is important.
Yeah.
A business guy's job is not to do that. A business owner's job is to get somebody to do it for him. So the plan remains plan, but nitty-gritties, details, numbers would change. And it's not my job to worry my day right from day in the morning to look at what's in the bank, what's in this, will this money come? If it doesn't come, will my electricity be cut? No, there is somebody to look at it and tell you. They have to tell you, listen, this has gone wrong for the last 3 months. So if that continues in the next 3 months, this is what's going to happen. Therefore, you need to change tack. You need to change your track. That's how they help your business. Otherwise, instead of doing your basic work as a business, bring sales, you will be wasting your time on this, and then you will blame the government, then you will blame the country, then you will blame the banker, and then you will blame everybody. No, because you are not ready to take blame yourself.
True.
So you need independent evaluators, financial experts looking at your plan, cash flow, finances regularly. And you need to have dashboard reports. They need to have access to you. You need to have access to them. We don't do it. Let's be honest. Nobody does it. We have accountant, we have finance, and we have balance sheet. Yeah, and you forget everything is done historically. Everything is done after things have been done. Yeah, he can very well say, well, this is the doctor good or bad. How? The patient died. So what benefit is that? This need to be done before. Anyway, so the point is that thought is very important. There need to be full, complete, comprehensive support from financial experts. You can have somebody within the organization, which is going to be costly, or you can always outsource it to people on a careful analysis, study, and who to select. Very much like you select your chartered accountants, your insurance brokers, and so on. That is extremely important.
True. So we were discussing about the business plans, having a right consultant or a financial advisor or a proper person who should guide you. I have seen this trend, especially in the SMEs, because I have a couple of friends in the industry, or I've seen many businesses, and I'm sure you also must be seeing the lack of a proper budgeting in the business. Have you seen certain cases like that? Or maybe can you give us some insight on having a proper budgeting, the importance of having a budget in an SME?
I think people always mistake a budget for a business plan and a business plan for a budget.
Yes.
I think we need to consider it. A budget is a part of the business plan. Budget is not a business plan. Budget can come only if you have a business. And there is an historical input in respect of expenses, income, variance, cash collection, so on and so forth, which need to be replicated, reflected correctly onto a budget.
Awesome.
Now, there are certain things we know that would happen in the next 6 months of time. There are certain things we don't know that would happen in 6 months of time. How do these two factors, these two important elements get reflected in your budget? Sitting today, probably I can expect interest rates would go down in the next 6 months. So, is my budgeting taking care of it? But I wouldn't know whether bankers would reduce cost of funding to that level.
They wouldn't.
So I can play with the numbers. Budget is not something that you simply forecast. It has to be a reflection of what the reality, what has been the historical trend. Both, anything that goes upwards, anything that goes downwards, need to be appropriately documented. Now, budgets are not, people simply take it for granted, budgets are numbers. No. Number one, these numbers need to have justifications. And that justifications need to be recorded so that you can review them over a period of years.
Right.
Which is very important because budget don't exist simply by doing a budget. Budget is important because you need to do a review of it. How often that review is required? 3 months, 6 months, perpetual. It all depends on the type and model of your business. Now, who is the best guy to do a budget?
Yeah.
Top lines, important things. Well, as a business owner, you would know. You can put in it. But what would happen if corporate tax goes from X% to Y%? It's not for you to input it.
Yes.
If you think your average invoice collection dates has been 120 days, now you think the market is going to be a bit difficult in the next 6 months' time, the next 1 year time. Well, you think the number is going to extend to 130 days. Well, that has direct and indirect reflection on a lot of financial numbers. It's not for as a business owner to worry about it. So budgeting is an important task. It must be done again like a business plan, a short-term budget and a long-term budget. If there has to be a proper review,
Right.
preferably a third-party review so that there is no self-interest, self-justification mode that comes into play and correction as to what has to be done with the business. So I think you touched on a very important point.
Yeah.
Budgeting is important. Budgeting is part of the business plan. Budget is not a business plan. There has to be a short-term budget. There has to be a long-term budget. And the numbers therein has to be justifiable with reason so we can always review them. And definitely a budget is good only if there are reviews and corrective actions.
Okay. Is it important to have a budget for all the businesses or only, certain businesses which makes X number of revenues?
It's like asking, should we see our doctor? Should everyone see a doctor once in a while or no? Yeah, doctors must be seen. Yeah, but then you need to see them once in 6 months, once in 1 year, one in 4 years. Well, that depends on a lot of factors. Same is with the business. And should we be spending all this money for a small startup, running a small, roadside bakala, where the average sales per day don't exceed 600 to 1,000 dirhams? Yeah, maybe not. But
Okay.
business, the word business has a certain import, has a certain credibility, has a certain meaning.
True.
So it's integral part of what we call a business. You don't have a business plan, you don't have a budget, you don't have a financial records, you don't have an overview, you don't have historical records, then I would suggest better don't call it a business.
You're planning to fail.
Yeah, you probably are having fun. Not for long, but I think it can't be called business.
Definitely.
Because in fun, when you go out to a bar, you go to a restaurant, you go to have a good time, well, typically you don't budget because a bit of underspending or overspending is taken for granted
happen,
because
yeah,
we
it
had
may
fun.
happen, yes.
But that's not how businesses are done. Business have to be specific. I can't budget, 100,000 for bank charges and end up with 250,000.
Right.
So
You have
everyone.
You have historical data to reflect upon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So everyone must budget, even if it's
Ideally.
a bit
Yeah.
difficult, ideally. But the problem again, I think I'm going to be a bit irritating to you, Rose. It's not having a budget. It's a question of reasons for that
Reviewing.
numbers and reviewing.
Reviewing.
Otherwise, it's of no use.
Periodic review.
Absolutely.
Periodic review.
You can again ask me, should everyone do at 3 months' time? No, it depends on your business.
On your business.
Volume, size, requirements, changes.
At least a
etc.
year, once in a year.
No, more than that, definitely.
More than that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there has
okay,
to be a mid-year review for sure. Because it's some
And
corrections.
it can we have to tweak it if required, maybe after 6 months.
No, I think personally, my personal feeling is that there must definitely be a mid-year review. More depending on the business and circumstances.
And it's better to have a third person to review it.
I always agree with that person. If you want to know what's wrong with you, ask your wife.
Definitely.
Never ask yourself. If you want to know what is wrong with your finances, ask your bankers. So a third pair of eyes will not have these feelings.
Right.
Because unfortunately, business are a part of numbers. Businesses are numbers, and numbers don't lie. Numbers don't have colors. But unfortunately for me, as a person, I would always justify it. Oh, the market was really tough.
Yeah.
What I did was good. Yeah, you know, only from your side, you know the industry numbers, you don't know the industry averages, you don't know the regional averages, so you have justified yourself.
You say
But
that so that you can be at peace.
you can be at peace.
But again, not for so long.
Yeah, but that peace is temporary. That's not
Not for so
long
long.
lasting.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable. In business, the most important word is sustainable.
Sustainable.
So somebody else coming up and asking you questions and reviewing. Reviewing is not coming up and saying, looking like your horoscope in 3 months, this will happen to you. No. Review is always somebody who comes, discusses with you, understands the business, discusses with your key persons and employees, if possible, discusses with your bankers and insurers, and comes to a conclusion. Some of this has been not.
That cost also has to be budgeted. You know, whatever cost is incurred for that. Yeah.
You cannot live without bills.
Yeah. True. So coming back to the business again. So now, until few years back, we were all enjoying whatever is coming and what we are spending and everything. And government has put on certain regulations and brought on VAT filing. And now we are in 2025. We are going to start 2025 very soon with corporate tax in place. So as a small business entities, or as a small business owners or anyone, what are the major things any business owners or the financial managers should look upon when these places are in place?
For me, I'm a finance guy. I think the most important business of any business is finance, because end of the day, a business is done, a business is begun to make money, and that therefore need to be the focus of the business. Sales alone is not good enough. Collection alone is not good enough. Good margins are not good enough. You need to have a plan that this can be scalable. If you're going to remain at where you are after 10 years, theoretically you have died. If you don't grow, you decay. So all this what we said during the last few minutes, you need expertise, you need people to help you, you need people to make you understand yourself better, therefore you can do better. So people need to be really careful, especially businesses. This kind of things that's happening in the region is not going to stop. The world is very much an interconnected place today. What happens in America, what happens in Europe, what happens in UK, what happens in India today will have its reflection in this region.
True.
Whatever that is good for the governments will pick it up. More and more KYC will happen, more due diligence will happen, more and more financial regulation will happen. Be ready for it. And do not think you are a master of everything. You are a master in something, focus on it. A tennis expert is not going to worry about his investment requirements. He's going to give it to his investment manager.
Same things applies in all
You are
all the
good in
departments as
business,
well,
do business. Don't do collection. Don't do finance. Don't do budgeting. Have money, have people, get it paid. Therefore, you can sit on judgment on it.
Unless you don't want to grow.
Absolutely. Then it's not a business.
Yes.
Business, therefore, as I said earlier, business, therefore, presupposes, takes in it a set of ideas. That's why a certain thing is called business. Business is not something that I buy something at 10, sell it at 12, I make 2. That's not business. The word business has a lot of meanings. Therefore, it's always taken for granted. We can't be sitting and discussing, no, my business doesn't want to grow.
Having said that, I just recollect a few conversations of the corporate leaders in India. So they were saying all the major decisions what they take, or maybe the implications are coming from the big four, or whoever the companies which they have appointed, be it PwC, EY, or big names, or whoever. They have employed all those, or maybe appointed, to be, they have appointed those consultants to look upon certain areas. So that's the reason they are growing, it seems. And he's focusing on, as you said, the business, the new doors to open, the new windows to look upon the world. I think.
End of the day, what does a business owner do? Why is he in business? He wants to grow. He wants to scale up. He wants to better his margins in various ways.
Yeah.
Now, if he doesn't focus on those areas, well, those other areas are going to suffer.
Correct.
As much as you don't look at mirror and worry about how good is your ophthalmic condition, you go to your eye doctor to do that. Same. You shouldn't look at on your own business to decide what's good and bad. You have an idea, you're a businessman, but there are so much of tools and advice and needs to be done. And luckily these days, all these are available for a fee.
Yeah.
Use them.
True. So it's a very valid point you have mentioned, because gone are the days, but now we are living in a world or in a place, especially in this part of the world, Dubai, where you have all expertise available at a price. So make use of them.
Exactly. That's
very
why
valid
these
point.
businesses are here.
Okay. So we were having a conversation for a while. So now to conclude, maybe I would ask your expertise or over the period of years in business or in finance. I want the new business owners or maybe the existing SME businesses or the business owners, maybe a few points from your side to give them, so that to probe them, to probe them every day, to have certain points to probe them, or maybe what would you give some, I won't call it as an advice, or maybe a question for them.
I think I should
A few points
say at first as a disclaimer, I'm not a businessman. Therefore, it looks very unfair that I start advising businessmen. But there is nothing wrong in having a checklist.
Checklist. That's what I mentioned.
I think we should all have a checklist in personal life, in business, and in with different areas. It's always good to know that we don't lose sight of something. So I think the first and foremost thing is always is we need to understand, write down in bold letters, hope is not a strategy.
Hope is not a strategy.
Business people, common people, personal life, we take it for granted things will improve. Yeah, things will improve if you work towards it. Things will not improve by its own. No, last so many months he has been paying at 120 days plus his invoices. No, next 3 months on is I spoke to him, therefore he's going to give me at 90 days. That's hope. It's not a strategy. Second, finance, cash is lifeline of business. You don't have it, think what is wrong. Make sure you have the right tools, right methods, right proposals, right strategy to make sure cash is there in the business. Again, hoping that cash flow will improve is not a strategy. And lastly, more importantly, there is enough expertise available in various fields related to your business. Use them. Your job is to run the business. Your job is not to do all this subdomain that is essential part of the business. Hopefully, you all will succeed. Businesses succeed. That's how economy grows. That's how people grow. That's how we have a better living standards. And luckily enough, we have governments in the region who are very helpful towards businessmen.
True.
So all this can be useful provided you do your job right.
And we have a good resource also here.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your insights and your valuable experiences. And thank you so much for your time.
Nothing at all. Pleasure. Don't take anyone's word, including my words, as the last line or the first line. We were trying to create a thought process stimulating dialogue. Hopefully, there are some points which people like and some points which people don't like. But unfortunately, first line principles, basic principles never changes. Let us stick to that. Thank you very much, Firoz, for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.